The text message arrived at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I know the exact time because I was awake, lying in bed next to Marcus, listening to his steady breathing, and wondering why I felt so uneasy lately. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, and I almost ignored it. Almost. We need to talk. It's about Marcus and Jenna. Meet me at Central Cafe tomorrow at noon. Sarah Martinez, had been my co-worker for 3 years. Someone I barely knew outside of office small talk and shared eye rolls during boring meetings, but something about the message made my stomach drop. I stared at it for 20 minutes, then deleted it without responding. I couldn't sleep after that. Kept glancing at Marcus, at his dark hair falling across his forehead, at the way his mouth was slightly open. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months. The wedding was planned for June, just 6 months away. Jenna had already ordered her maid of honor dress. Jenna, my best friend since high school, the person who knew everything about me, who'd held my hair back when I was sick, who'd celebrated every achievement and mourned every heartbreak with me, who'd introduced me to Marcus at her housewarming party 4 years ago. The next morning, Marcus left for his consulting job, like always, kissed my forehead, told me he loved me. I watched him from our kitchen window as he walked to his car, briefcase in hand, and felt something crack inside my chest. I called in sick to work, spent the morning pacing our apartment, looking at photos on our walls. Marcus and me at the beach last summer, the three of us, me, Marcus, and Jenna, at my birthday dinner. Jenna and me in high school graduation caps. Each picture felt like evidence of something I couldn't name yet. At 11:30, I drove to Central Cafe with shaking hands. Sarah was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with 2 coffee cups. She looked nervous, kept glancing around like she expected someone to overhear us. I slid into the seat across from her. I shouldn't be doing this, she started immediately. It's none of my business, and maybe I'm wrong, but I couldn't live with myself if I didn't tell you. I waited. I saw them together, Sarah said quietly. Marcus and Jenna, last Friday after work. I was leaving late, around 7, and I saw them in the parking garage. It wasn't innocent, Rachel. They were kissing, and it wasn't like a friendly kiss. It was, the words hit me like a physical blow. I gripped my coffee cup so hard I thought it might shatter. Are you sure it was them? I'm sure. I know what your fiancé looks like. And Jenna, I've seen her at company events with you. It was definitely them. I stared at Sarah, this woman who barely knew me, who had nothing to gain by lying. Her face was full of sympathy and regret. How long do you think? I couldn't finish the question. I don't know. But Rachel, there's something else. I've seen his car in the parking lot of that new apartment complex on 5th Street. You know, where Jenna lives. Multiple times over the past few months. Always in the evenings. The cafe seemed to tilt around me. I excused myself, rushed to the bathroom, and threw up everything I'd tried to eat that morning. When I came back, Sarah was still there, looking miserable. I'm sorry, she said. I know this is horrible, but you deserve to know. I thanked her, paid for both our coffees, and drove home in a daze. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done before. I went through Marcus's things. Not frantically, not dramatically, just methodically. His laptop was password protected, but I knew his patterns. He used variations of the same password for everything. His browser history told me everything I needed to know. Restaurant reservations I'd never been to. Hotel bookings. During times he'd told me he was traveling for work, but the hotels were local. Searches for jewelry stores, but not for engagement rings. For necklaces, earrings, things he'd never bought me. His phone was harder to crack, but I managed it while he was in the shower that evening. Text threads with Jenna, going back 8 months. 8 months. 2 months into our engagement, the messages started innocent enough. Thanks for helping Rachel plan the surprise party. Did you see the game last night? Normal stuff. But then they got more frequent, more personal. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. Plans that didn't include me. And then, from 3 months ago, I can't stop thinking about you. We can't do this to Rachel. I know, but I can't help how I feel. Meet me tomorrow. We need to talk in person. I scrolled through months of messages. Their guilt, their rationalization, their growing attachment to each other. Plans to tell me after the holidays. No, after my promotion at work. No, after my sister's wedding. Always another excuse to postpone destroying my life. The most recent message was from that afternoon, after my meeting with Sarah. I think someone saw us. We need to be more careful. I sat on my bathroom floor, holding Marcus's phone, reading about how the 2 people I trusted most in the world had been planning to betray me for months, how they'd been intimate, how they'd fallen in love, how they were just waiting for the right moment to break my heart. Marcus came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, humming some song. Hey babe, what do you want for dinner? I looked up at him. This man I'd planned to marry, who I'd imagined growing old with, who'd been living a double life for 8 months. Whatever you want, I managed. That night, lying next to him, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront them immediately. I wasn't going to scream and cry. and give them the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart. I was going to be strategic. The next morning, after Marcus left for work, I started planning. First, I called my sister, Emily. She lived across the country, but had always been protective of me. I told her everything, sent her screenshots of the messages. She was furious, wanted to fly out immediately to confront them both. Not yet, I told her. I need to handle this my way. Next, I called my friend David, a lawyer who specialized in family law. Not that we were married yet, but I wanted to understand my rights regarding our shared assets. Our apartment lease, the wedding deposits. Document everything, he advised. Screenshots, dates, times. If he's been using shared funds for these affairs, you might have recourse. I spent the next week living a lie, pretending everything was normal, while I gathered evidence and made plans. Marcus and Jenna both acted completely natural around me. Marcus kissed me goodbye every morning, asked about my day every evening. Jenna texted me funny memes and made plans for her dress fitting. The worst part was how good they were at it, how easily they lied, how seamlessly they maintained their deception. It made me wonder what else they'd lied about, how long they'd been lying to me about other things. I started paying attention to details I'd missed before. How Marcus always volunteered to pick Jenna up when we went out as a group, saying it was on his way, even when it wasn't. How they always seemed to know about each other's plans before I did. How they'd share glances across the room that I'd interpreted as friendship, but now recognized as something else entirely. The breaking point came on Friday night. We were supposed to have dinner with Jenna to discuss wedding details. Marcus got a work call at the last minute, or so he claimed, and said he'd meet us at the restaurant. Jenna and I were sitting at our table, looking at centerpiece photos on her phone, when she got a text. She glanced at it, and her face went pale. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, just work stuff. But I'd seen enough of their messages to recognize Marcus's contact name in her phone. Even upside down, he wasn't coming to dinner because he was with her. He was texting his girlfriend, while his fiancée sat across from me, pretending to care about our wedding flowers. The rage that hit me in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Not sadness, not heartbreak, pure fury, but I kept my voice level. I need to use the bathroom. Order me the salmon if the server comes by. In the bathroom, I called Marcus. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. When I came back to the table, Jenna was fidgeting with her napkin, looking guilty. Marcus texted. She said, "The work thing is running really late. He said to start without him and he's sorry." I nodded, ordered wine, made small talk about wedding favors, all while planning exactly how I was going to destroy both of their lives. That weekend, while Marcus was supposedly playing golf with his college friends, I hired a private investigator. I knew it was overkill. I already had all the evidence I needed, but I wanted to know everything. How often they met, where they went, whether there were others involved. The PI, Janet, was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She showed me photos within 3 days. Marcus and Jenna holding hands at a restaurant across town, entering her apartment building together, shopping for groceries like a couple. How long do you want me to continue surveillance? Janet asked. Just a few more days. I'm planning something. That night, Marcus came home with flowers. Daisies, my favorites. I almost laughed at the irony. What's the occasion? Can't a guy buy flowers for his fiancée? He was trying to assuage his guilt with $15 flowers from the grocery store, while he was spending hundreds on hotels and jewelry for my best friend. They're beautiful. Thank you. We made dinner together, watched a movie, made love. The whole time, I felt like I was acting in a play, going through the motions of a relationship that had died 8 months ago. I just hadn't known it yet. The next morning, I put my plan into action. I'd already taken half days off work for the rest of the week. Told my boss I was dealing with a family emergency. Not entirely a lie. First stop, the wedding venue. I met with the coordinator. Explained that due to unforeseen circumstances, we needed to cancel. There would be penalties, lost deposits. But David had helped me understand which expenses I could recover and which were gone forever. I'm so sorry to hear about the cancellation, the coordinator said. Is there anything we can do to help you reschedule? No, thank you. This is permanent. Next. The florist, the caterer, the photographer. Most were understanding. Some were annoyed about the short notice, but I didn't care. Each cancelled vendor felt like taking back a piece of my life. The wedding dress was harder. I'd bought it 6 months ago. Had been so excited about the alterations appointment next week. The boutique had a strict no-return policy, but I didn't want to sell it or donate it. I wanted to burn it, but that seemed too dramatic even for me. Instead, I left it hanging in our shared closet, where Marcus would eventually see it, a ghost of the future we'd never have. By Wednesday, I'd cancelled everything wedding-related, except the honeymoon. That reservation I kept, but changed the name on the second ticket from Marcus Williams to Emily Chen, my sister. We were going to Hawaii without him. Wednesday evening, Marcus came home with Chinese takeout and more flowers. Roses this time. You're being so sweet lately, I said, accepting his kiss on the cheek. I love you, Rachel. I want you to know that. The words that once would have made me melt now made me sick. He was saying it to make himself feel better, not me. I love you too, I lied back. Thursday morning, after Marcus left for work, I started packing. Not everything, just essentials. Clothes for a week, important documents, jewelry, things that were definitely mine. I'd rented a storage unit and a temporary apartment across town. The lease on our shared place was in both our names, but I'd already spoken to the landlord about removing myself from it. My plan was simple: disappear from his life as suddenly and completely as he'd planned to disappear from mine. But first, I wanted everyone to know exactly why. Thursday evening, I cooked Marcus's favorite dinner: steak, roasted potatoes, the green beans he loved. We ate by candlelight, talked about our days, made plans for the weekend. I asked about his golf game, complimented his new shirt, listened to him complain about his boss. After dinner, as he was loading the dishwasher, I brought up Jenna. I was thinking of asking Jenna to help me pick out shoes for the wedding this weekend. What do you think? Marcus's back was to me, but I saw his shoulders tense slightly. That sounds nice. I'm sure she'd love to help. She's been such a good friend through all of this wedding planning. I don't know what I'd do without her. Yeah, Jenna's great. She really is. So supportive. So trustworthy. I'm lucky to have her in my life. Marcus turned around then. Met my eyes. For a second, I thought I saw guilt there. Maybe even the urge to confess. But then he smiled. You are lucky, you both are, to have each other. I nodded, smiled back, and excused myself to take a shower. In the bathroom, I sent identical text messages to both Marcus and Jenna. Can you both come over tomorrow evening around 7? I want to discuss something important about the wedding with both of you. Marcus replied immediately. Of course, babe. Everything okay? Jenna took longer. Yes, definitely. Is everything all right? You sound serious. Everything's fine. Just want to run some ideas by you both. That night, I barely slept. Tomorrow, I would detonate the bomb that would destroy the life I thought I was building. But it wasn't really my life anymore, was it? That had ended 8 months ago. Tomorrow, I would just make it official. Friday crawled by. I called in sick again, spent the day finalizing details, confirmed my storage unit, my new apartment lease, my flight to my sister's house for the following week, packed the last of my essentials into boxes, and loaded them into my car. At 4 p.m., I did something petty but satisfying. I went to the jewelry store, where Marcus had bought Jenna a necklace, according to his credit card statements, and bought myself the most expensive earrings I could afford, charged them to our joint account, a small revenge, but it felt good. At 6 p.m., I set up my phone to record, placed it on the bookshelf, where it had a clear view of our living room, but wasn't obvious. I wanted a record of what was about to happen, for my own closure, if nothing else. Marcus arrived home at 6:45, as usual. He seemed more nervous than normal, kept checking his phone. Jenna's coming over at 7, right? He asked. That's the plan. What did you want to discuss about the wedding? You'll see when she gets here. At exactly 7, Jenna knocked on our door. I let her in, hugged her like I always did, complimented her new haircut. She was wearing the necklace Marcus had bought her. I wondered if she thought I wouldn't notice, or if she'd forgotten I'd never seen it before. We all sat in the living room, Jenna and Marcus on the couch, me in the armchair across from them. They were careful not to sit too close to each other, but I caught the quick glance they shared. So, I began. I wanted to talk to you both about the wedding. They nodded, waiting. The thing is, there isn't going to be one. Silence. Confusion. On both their faces. What do you mean? Marcus asked. I pulled out my phone, opened the screenshots I'd organized. I mean that I know about you two. I've known for over a week. The color drained from both their faces simultaneously. Jenna's hand went to her throat, covering the necklace. Marcus sat forward, mouth opening and closing, like he couldn't find words. Rachel, I can explain, he started. No, I held up my hand. You can't. There's no explanation that makes 8 months of lying and cheating acceptable. There's no excuse for planning my wedding while sleeping with my best friend. Jenna started crying. Rachel, please. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? You were going to wait until after the wedding? After I'd legally tied myself to him while you two were already together. We were going to tell you, Marcus said desperately. We just didn't know how. I laughed. Actually laughed. You were going to tell me. When? Your last text to her was about being more careful, because someone might have seen you. That doesn't sound like people planning to come clean. I showed them both their own messages on my phone, watched their faces as they realized how thoroughly I'd uncovered their deception. Rachel, Jenna sobbed. You have to understand. We didn't mean for this to happen. It just did. Things don't just happen, Jenna. You made choices. Both of you, every day for 8 months. You chose to lie to me. You chose to sneak around behind my back. You chose to let me plan a wedding to a man who was in love with someone else. Marcus tried to reach for me, but I pulled back. Don't touch me. I do love you, he said. This thing with Jenna, it's complicated. But I do love you. You don't get to say that anymore. Love doesn't do what you did. Love doesn't lie and cheat and manipulate. I stood up, walked to the window. They sat in silence behind me, both crying now. I've cancelled the wedding. I announced everything. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the photographer. It's all done. Rachel, no. Marcus stood up. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. There is no we anymore, Marcus. You ended we 8 months ago, when you decided my best friend was more important than our relationship. It's not like that, Jenna said through her tears. We didn't want to hurt you, but you did anyway. For 8 months. You hurt me every single day, without me even knowing it. Every lie, every secret meeting, every time you looked me in the eye, and pretended to care about our friendship. You hurt me. I turned back to face them. They looked small sitting on my couch, finally confronted with the reality of what they'd done. I'm leaving, I said. Tonight. I've already moved most of my things. I'll be back next week for the rest. Where will you go? Marcus asked. That's not your concern anymore. Rachel, please. Jenna stood up, approached me with her hands out, like she was trying to calm a wild animal. Our friendship means everything to me. We can get past this. Stared at her. This woman, who'd been my maid of honor, who I'd shared every secret with, who betrayed me in the most intimate way possible. Our friendship ended the first time you kissed him. Everything since then has been you lying to my face. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed again, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair to let me pay for your maid of honor dress while you were sleeping with my fiancé? Was it fair to help me taste wedding cakes while you were planning to steal my future husband? Was it fair to comfort me when I was stressed about wedding planning, when you were the reason I should have been stressed? She had no answer for that. I grabbed my purse, my keys, and the suitcase I'd packed that morning. Rachel, wait. Marcus called after me. Can we at least talk about the apartment? The lease? I've already removed my name from it. It's your problem now. Yours and hers, I guess. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back one more time. I hope it was worth it, I said quietly. I hope what you have together was worth destroying. A 4-year relationship and a 15-year friendship. Because those are gone forever now. And what you're left with is a relationship that started with lies and betrayal. Good luck building something lasting on that foundation. I walked out of that apartment and didn't look back. I drove straight to my sister's house. A 14-hour drive that I made through the night, stopping only for gas and coffee. Emily met me at her door with hugs and tissues and fury that matched my own. I want to kill them both, she said, helping me carry my bags inside. Get in line. I spent a week with Emily, crying and raging and slowly starting to process what had happened to my life. She took time off work, made my favorite foods, listened to me vent for hours. Having someone completely on my side who wasn't trying to play devil's advocate or find middle ground was exactly what I needed. You know what I keep thinking about? I told her one afternoon, as we sat on her porch. All the times I felt guilty about stupid things. Like when I forgot to text Marcus back, or when I cancelled plans with Jenna because I was tired. I was worried about being a bad girlfriend, a bad friend, and they were living double lives. That's what people like them do, Emily said. They make you question yourself so you don't question them. On day 3 of my stay, Marcus started calling. I let every call go to voicemail, but Emily insisted we listen to them together. Rachel, please call me back. We need to talk about this. I know you're hurt, but you can't just disappear. We have a life together. We have responsibilities. Please just call me back. Rachel, it's me again. Jenna is devastated. She hasn't stopped crying since you left. She wants to explain everything, but you won't answer her calls either. You're being unfair, refusing to hear our side of the story. Unfair? Emily snorted. The audacity. The messages got progressively more desperate and eventually angry. Rachel, you can't just walk away from 4 years together. We had plans. We had a future. You're throwing it all away over one mistake. One mistake that lasted 8 months, I muttered. By day 5. Fine, Rachel. If you want to be childish about this, that's your choice. But you can't avoid reality forever. We still have shared finances, shared responsibilities. You can't just abandon everything because you're upset. Upset? Emily was furious. You're upset when someone cuts you off in traffic. This is betrayal. I finally turned off my phone entirely. On day 7, my sister convinced me to call David, my lawyer friend, to discuss the practical aspects of untangling my life from Marcus's. How much shared debt do you have? He asked. Not much. We kept our finances mostly separate. We have the joint account for household expenses, but that's about it. Good. What about the apartment? I already removed my name from the lease. Even better, what about your car? In my name only. Rachel, you're in a much better position than most people in this situation. You can make a clean break if you want to. That's what I wanted. A clean break, a fresh start, a life where Marcus and Jenna were just bad memories I could eventually forget. But first, I wanted everyone to know what they'd done. Before I left Emily's house, I wrote a letter, not to them. I had nothing left to say to them, but to everyone who would have been at our wedding, our families, our friends, our co-workers, people who deserved to know why the wedding was cancelled, who might otherwise believe whatever story Marcus and Jenna decided to tell. I kept it simple and factual. Dear friends and family, I wanted to let you know personally that Marcus and I have ended our relationship and our wedding has been cancelled after discovering that he has been having an affair with my maid of honor, Jenna, for the past 8 months. I have decided to end our engagement. I know this comes as a shock, as it did to me. I want to thank everyone who supported us and helped with wedding planning. Your kindness meant the world to me. I will be taking some time away to process this situation and decide on my next steps. I appreciate your understanding and privacy during this difficult time. With love, Rachel. I printed 50 copies, addressed them to everyone on our wedding guest list, and mailed them before I could second-guess myself. Then I drove home to face whatever was waiting for me there. My temporary apartment was small but clean, and more importantly, it was mine alone. No shared spaces, no reminders of Marcus, no photos of happier times staring at me from every surface. I'd been back for 2 days when my phone started ringing again. This time, it wasn't just Marcus and Jenna. It was friends, family members, co-workers, people who'd received my letter and wanted to check on me, offer support, or express their shock and anger on my behalf. I can't believe they did this to you, my college roommate Sarah called to say. Jenna always seemed so loyal. Marcus seemed like such a good guy, my cousin Mike said. I'm so sorry, Rachel. The support was overwhelming and healing, in a way I hadn't expected. These people cared about me, were angry for me, wanted to help me through this. It reminded me that I wasn't alone, that I had relationships built on honesty and trust, even if my most important ones had been built on lies. But not everyone was supportive. Marcus's mother called me 3 days after the letters went out. She was furious. How could you humiliate my son like this? She demanded. Sending letters to everyone, airing your private business. It's cruel and unnecessary. What's cruel and unnecessary is what your son did to me. Relationships are complicated, Rachel. People make mistakes, but publicly shaming him like this is vindictive. I told the truth. If the truth is shameful, maybe your son should have thought about that before he started cheating. You could have handled this privately. I handled it exactly how I needed to handle it. Your son made this public when he decided to cheat with my best friend while planning our wedding. She hung up on me, but I felt vindicated rather than guilty. I told the truth, and if that made people uncomfortable, that wasn't my problem. Jenna's response came via email a week later. Rachel, I know you hate me right now, and I understand why. What Marcus and I did was wrong, and I regret hurting you more than you can imagine. But sending those letters to everyone we know was vindictive and cruel. You've destroyed our reputations, made it impossible for us to face our friends and families. Know you're angry, but this level of public humiliation goes beyond what we deserve. We made a mistake, but we're human beings with feelings too. I'm asking you, as someone who used to be your best friend, to consider the damage you've done, not just to us, but to our families, our careers, our futures. I hope someday you can find it in your heart to forgive us. What we had together, our friendship, your relationship with Marcus. It was real and meaningful, even if it ended badly. Please think about calling off this public vendetta and trying to move forward with some grace. Jenna, I read the email twice, then deleted it. The audacity of her asking me to protect their reputations after they destroyed my life was breathtaking. They were worried about their careers, while I was rebuilding my entire existence from scratch. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my former boss. Rachel, I wanted to check on you. I heard about what happened with Marcus and Jenna. I'm so sorry. Thank you, I'm doing better. Good. Listen, I know you took some time off, but I wanted you to know that when you're ready to come back, we'd love to have you. Your position is waiting. It was a relief to know I still had a job, still had some stability in my life, but going back to the same office where I'd worked alongside people who knew about my humiliation felt daunting. Actually, I said, I've been thinking about making some changes. Do you know if there are any openings in the Seattle office? Seattle was across the country from Marcus and Jenna, from the life I'd built and lost. It seemed like exactly the fresh start I needed. Let me make some calls, my boss said. I think we can make something work. 3 weeks later, I was on a plane to Seattle with 2 suitcases and a job offer. Everything I owned in the world fit in the cargo hold of an airplane. It was both depressing and liberating. Seattle was rainy and green and full of people who had no idea who I was or what had happened to me. I rented a small apartment in Capitol Hill, bought basic furniture from IKEA, and started over. The job was similar to what I'd done before, but with more responsibility and better pay. My new coworkers were friendly, but not invasive. Curious about my move from across the country, but polite enough not to pry too deeply. For the first time in months, I could go entire days without thinking about Marcus and Jenna. I started therapy with Dr. Patricia Liu, a woman in her 50s who specialized in trauma and betrayal. She helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't just a bad breakup. It was a fundamental betrayal of trust that would take time and work to heal. You're not just grieving the loss of your relationship, she explained during one of our early sessions. You're grieving the loss of your reality. Everything you thought you knew about your life turned out to be partially false. That's exactly how it feels, I agreed. Like I was living in a movie, and someone suddenly told me it was all just a set. That's normal, and it's normal that rebuilding trust in others and in your own judgment will take time. I threw myself into work, into exploring my new city, into building a life that had nothing to do with my past. I hiked in the mountains, took cooking classes, joined a book club. Slowly, I started to remember who I was, outside of being Marcus's fiancée and Jenna's best friend. 6 months after leaving, I got a call from Sarah Martinez, the coworker who'd first told me about seeing them together. Rachel, I'm so glad I found your new number. I wanted to update you on some things happening here. What kind of things? Well, Marcus and Jenna are together officially now. No one was surprised after your letters came out. But here's the thing. It's not going well. Despite myself, I was curious. What do you mean? The guilt is eating them alive. Jenna looks terrible all the time, lost a bunch of weight, barely talks to anyone at work. And Marcus? Well, word is that he's been pretty miserable too. They're together, but they both seem to realize that everyone sees them as the people who destroyed a 4-year relationship and a lifelong friendship. Good, I said, and meant it. It gets better. Remember how Marcus worked for that consulting firm? Well, apparently some of his clients weren't thrilled to learn about his personal ethics issues. Consulting is all about trust, right? A couple of major clients ended their contracts with his firm specifically because they didn't want to work with him. I felt a spark of satisfaction. Really? And Jenna's not doing much better. You know how she was up for that promotion to senior manager? Yeah, that's not happening anymore. Apparently, management doesn't think someone who lies to their best friend for 8 months demonstrates the kind of leadership qualities they're looking for. That's actually pretty satisfying to hear. I thought you'd appreciate it. Oh, and Rachel, everyone here thinks you handled the whole thing perfectly. That letter was classy, but devastating. You told the truth and let the consequences speak for themselves. After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt since discovering their affair. Justice. Not revenge exactly, but a sense that actions had consequences. That people who betray others don't just get to skip away into the sunset without facing any repercussions. A few months later, I got another update through the grapevine. Marcus and Jenna had broken up. Apparently, the guilt and social consequences had been too much for their relationship to bear. They'd tried to make it work, but everyone around them knew how their relationship had started, and that knowledge poisoned everything. They'd lost each other, lost the respect of their friends and families, damaged their careers, and gained nothing in return. Meanwhile, I was building a new life in a new city, free from their lies and manipulation. By my 1-year anniversary in Seattle, I was thriving. I'd been promoted at work, had made genuine friends, was dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it was progress. I felt like myself again, maybe even a better version of myself than I'd been before. I was stronger now, more careful about who I trusted, but not cynical. I'd learned the difference between being open and being naive, between forgiveness and allowing myself to be mistreated. Dr. Liu and I were meeting monthly now instead of weekly. Maintenance sessions to check in and process any residual feelings that came up. Do you ever regret how you handled everything? She asked during one session. I thought about it carefully. No, I regret that it happened. I regret that I wasted 4 years with someone who could lie to me so easily. But I don't regret my response. I told the truth. I protected myself, and I built a new life. I'm proud of how I handled it. Even the letters. Some people might say that was harsh. The letters were the truth. If they didn't want everyone to know they were cheaters, they shouldn't have cheated. I'm not responsible for protecting their reputations from the consequences of their own choices. And now? How do you feel about them now? Honestly, I feel nothing. For a long time, I was angry, then hurt, then vindicated when everything fell apart for them. But now, they're just strangers who used to be in my life. I don't wish them well, but I don't wish them harm either. They're irrelevant. That was the truth. Marcus and Jenna had become footnotes in my story. Cautionary tales I sometimes shared with new friends about the importance of trusting your instincts and surrounding yourself with people of integrity. 2 years after Seattle, I met David at a coffee shop near my office. Not a date, he was married, but a potential business partnership. He ran a small marketing firm and was looking for someone with my background to help expand into the tech sector. We hit it off immediately, professionally and personally. He was funny, smart, driven, and most importantly, completely transparent about everything. When he said he'd call, he called. When he made plans, he kept them. When he told me about his life, I believed him because everything was verifiable and consistent. 6 months later, I left my corporate job to become his business partner. We grew the company from 12 employees to 40 in our first year together. The work was challenging and rewarding in ways my old job had never been. You know what I like about working with you? David told me one day as we celebrated landing a major client. You're direct. You say what you mean. You do what you say you'll do, and you don't play games. It's refreshing. I learned the hard way that life's too short for people who can't be honest. Bad breakup. Something like that. I didn't tell him the whole story. I didn't need to. That part of my life was over. Filed away in the category of lessons learned and wisdom earned. 3 years into my Seattle life, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Rachel. It's Jenna. My blood went cold. I hadn't heard her voice in 3 years. How did you get this number? I hired someone to find you. I know that sounds stalkerish, but I needed to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. Please don't hang up. Just give me 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I stayed on the line. I'm getting married, she said. To someone new, someone good. And I can't go through with it without trying to make things right with you first. There's nothing to make right, Jenna. What's done is done. I know you'll never forgive me. I know I destroyed our friendship, and I can never fix that. But I need you to know how sorry I am. Not just for what I did, but for how I did it. For lying to you every day for 8 months. For letting you plan that wedding while I was betraying you. For all of it, I said nothing. The guilt almost killed me, Rachel. After you left, after everyone found out what we'd done, I fell apart completely. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. Marcus and I, we tried to make it work, but how do you build a relationship on a foundation like that? Every time we were together, we were reminded of what we'd done to you. Good, I said, quietly. I went to therapy. A lot of therapy. I learned things about myself I didn't want to know. About why I was capable of doing what I did. About the patterns in my life of taking things that weren't mine. Of justifying terrible behavior. It wasn't an excuse, but it was an explanation. I'm not interested in your explanations. I know. The person I'm marrying now, James. He's a good man. When I told him about what I did to you, he almost broke up with me. He said he couldn't be with someone capable of that level of betrayal. I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to be with me either. Then why are you calling me? Because he said if I was really a different person now, if I'd really changed, then I would try to make amends. Not because I expected forgiveness, but because it was the right thing to do. So here I am. I walked to my window, looked out at the Seattle skyline, this city that had become my sanctuary, my fresh start. Are you done, Rachel? Are you done? Yes. Good. Here's what I need you to understand, Jenna. You're not calling me to make amends. You're calling me to make yourself feel better about marrying this man. You want to check apologize to Rachel off your list so you can tell yourself you're a good person now. I'm not finished. You and Marcus didn't just cheat on me. You robbed me of the ability to make my own choice about my life. You took away my agency by lying to me for 8 months. You made me live in a false reality where I thought I was loved and valued, while you were both planning to destroy everything I thought I had. She was crying now. I could hear it in her breathing. But here's the thing, Jenna. Your guilt is not my responsibility. Your need for forgiveness is not my problem. I don't owe you absolution, so you can feel better about your past. That's between you and your therapist, or your priest, or whoever. It's not between you and me. I understand. Do you? Because if you did, you wouldn't have tracked down my private number to make this call. You would have left me in peace. You're right. I'm sorry. Don't call me again, Jenna. Don't contact me. Don't try to find me. Don't send me wedding invitations, or birth announcements, or Christmas cards. I'm not a character in your redemption story. I'm a real person whose life you damaged, and the best thing you can do for me now is pretend I don't exist. Rachel, wait. I hung up and immediately blocked the number. But the call had shaken me more than I wanted to admit. That night, I called Dr. Liu for an emergency session. How did it feel to hear from her? She asked. Violating. Like she was still trying to take things from me that weren't hers to take. What kind of things? My peace. My closure. She wanted me to forgive her, so she could move on with her life guilt-free. She wanted to use me to feel better about herself. And how do you feel about refusing her that? Powerful. For the first time in that whole situation, I got to set the terms. I got to decide what I was willing to give and what I wasn't. That's significant growth, Rachel. 3 years ago, you might have felt obligated to absolve her. She was right. The old me, the people pleaser who worried about being a bad friend, might have given Jenna what she wanted. The new me understood that forgiveness was a gift, not an obligation, and some people simply hadn't earned it. A year later, I met Tom at a hiking group. He was a software engineer who'd moved to Seattle from Portland. Funny and kind, and refreshingly straightforward. We started as friends, hiking, partners who grabbed coffee after our weekend adventures. The transition to dating was gradual and natural. No games, no mixed signals, no wondering where I stood. When Tom was interested in me, he told me. When he wanted to see me, he asked. When he said he'd call, he did. I like that you're direct, he told me early in our relationship. Some people play so many games. It's exhausting. Games are for children, I said. I'm too old for that nonsense. 6 months into dating Tom, I told him about Marcus and Jenna. The whole story, from beginning to end. I'd learned that transparency was non-negotiable for me now. If Tom was going to be in my life, he needed to understand why I was the way I was. He listened without judgment, got appropriately angry on my behalf. And when I was done, he said, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm also grateful for what it taught you, because it means I get to be with someone who values honesty as much as I do. That's when I knew I was falling in love with him. Tom and I moved in together after a year and a half of dating. No games, no ultimatums, just a natural progression of two adults who enjoyed each other's company and wanted to share a life. Our apartment was filled with photos of our adventures, trips we'd taken together, friends we'd made together, a life built on truth and mutual respect. Everything my relationship with Marcus hadn't been. Do you ever think about them? Tom asked me one evening as we cooked dinner together. Your ex and your former friend? Sometimes, I admitted, but not with anger anymore. More like curiosity, I guess. I wonder if they ever learned anything from what happened. If they're capable of being honest with other people. If they understand the damage they did. Do you think they do? Jenna might. That phone call suggested she had some awareness, even if her approach was selfish. Marcus. I don't know. He always was better at justifying his behavior than examining it. Do you regret any of how you handled it? I thought about it as I chopped vegetables. No. I told the truth. I protected myself. I built a better life. I'm proud of how I responded to being betrayed. Even sending those letters to everyone. Especially sending those letters. They wanted to control the narrative. To decide when and how to reveal their affair. I took that power away from them and made sure everyone knew the truth. It was the right thing to do. Tom nodded, stirring the sauce on the stove. I think so too. People deserve to know who they're dealing with. That night, as we lay in bed, Tom said something that surprised me. I love that you're not bitter. What do you mean? You went through something that could have made you cynical and closed off and suspicious of everyone. But you're not. You're careful. You're wise. But you're still open to love and trust. That takes strength. He was right. I had learned to trust again, just more carefully. I'd learned the difference between being naive and being open. Between giving people the benefit of the doubt and ignoring red flags. 5 years after leaving my old life behind, Tom proposed. Not with a big dramatic gesture, but on a random Tuesday evening as we walked our dog around our neighborhood. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, he said simply. Will you marry me? Yes, I said, and meant it completely. Our wedding was small and perfect. My sister as maid of honor, Tom's brother as best man, 40 close friends and family members who had supported us throughout our relationship. No drama, no secrets, no wondering if anyone was lying to us. Dr. Lou attended as a guest, which felt right. She'd been part of my journey back to trusting and loving. You look happy, she told me at the reception. I am happy, really genuinely happy. You should be proud of yourself, Rachel. Not everyone who goes through what you went through comes out the other side this healthy and whole. Looking around at our wedding celebration, at Tom laughing with his college friends, at my sister giving an emotional maid of honor speech, at our co-workers dancing to terrible music. I felt overwhelming gratitude for the life I'd built. None of this would have existed if I'd stayed with Marcus. I would have married someone who didn't truly love me, surrounded by people who could lie to my face, built a life on a false foundation that would have collapsed eventually anyway. In a twisted way, Marcus and Jenna had done me a favor. They'd shown me their true characters before I'd legally bound myself to one of them. They'd taught me what I wouldn't tolerate, what real love looked like, what kind of people deserved space in my life. 2 months after our honeymoon, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was congratulations. I almost deleted it, but something made me open it. Rachel, I saw your wedding announcement in your old company's newsletter. You look happy. I'm glad. I know I have no right to contact you after you specifically asked me not to, but I wanted you to know that seeing you thriving means everything to me. Not because it absolves me of anything, but because you deserved happiness, and I'm grateful you found it. I married James last year. We're expecting our first child in the spring. I think about you often, and hope you're living the beautiful life you always deserved. I won't contact you again. This isn't about me seeking forgiveness or closure. This is just about me being genuinely happy that you got your happy ending, Jenna. I stared at the email for a long time. 5 years ago, it would have made me furious. The presumption of it, the violation of my clearly stated boundaries. The way it still centered her feelings, and her need to tell me she was happy for me. But now it just felt sad. Sad that she still couldn't respect boundaries. Sad that she still didn't understand that my happiness had nothing to do with her and didn't require her acknowledgement. I deleted the email and blocked the address. Then I forgot about it entirely, until months later when I was telling Tom about my day and randomly remembered it. What did you think when you read it? He asked. That some people never learn. That she still thinks my life is somehow connected to hers. That she has a right to comment on it or celebrate it. She's still trying to be part of my story. Are you angry? No, I feel nothing. And that's exactly how I want it to be. That was the last time I heard from either of them. 7 years. After leaving my old life, Tom and I bought a house with a big backyard and room to grow. We talked about kids, about the future, about the business we were still growing together. I thought sometimes about alternate timelines, about the life I would have had if I'd married Marcus. Would I have been happy not knowing about his capacity for deception? Would the lies have eventually come out some other way? Would I have wasted decades with someone who didn't truly love me? I was grateful I'd never have to find out. One evening, as Tom and I worked in our garden together, planting vegetables for the summer, he asked me something I'd never considered. Do you think you would have been as happy with someone else if the Marcus thing hadn't happened? If you'd met me first? I thought about it as I planted tomato seedlings. I don't know, maybe, but I might not have appreciated you as much. Going through that betrayal taught me to value honesty and consistency in ways I didn't before. It taught me what real love looks like. So you're saying I should send Marcus a thank you card? I laughed. Please don't. But in a way, Tom had a point. My relationship with him was stronger because I knew what bad relationships looked like. I appreciated his transparency because I'd lived with lies. I valued his loyalty because I'd experienced betrayal. Marcus and Jenna had inadvertently given me a gift, the knowledge of what I wouldn't accept, what I deserved, what real partnership looked like. 10 years after the confrontation that ended my old life, I was promoted to senior partner at the marketing firm Tom and I had built together. We employed 60 people, had clients across the country, had built something meaningful and successful together. At the company party, celebrating my promotion, I gave a speech thanking everyone who had supported our growth. As I looked out at the faces of our employees, our clients, our friends, I felt overwhelming pride in what we'd accomplished. Success, I said, isn't just about what you build. It's about who you build it with, and whether those relationships are based on trust, respect, and mutual support. I'm grateful to work with people who embody those values every day. Later, as Tom and I cleaned up after the party, he said, "That was a beautiful speech. I meant every word. I know you did. That's what I love about you. You always mean what you say." It was such a simple thing. Meaning what you say, saying what you mean. But Marcus and Jenna had taught me how rare and valuable it really was. It was such a simple thing. Meaning what you say, saying what you mean. But Marcus and Jenna had taught me how rare and valuable it really was. 15 years later, at my sister's wedding, someone asked me if I ever wondered what happened to my ex-fiancé and former best friend. Not really, I said honestly. They're part of my past, and I'm focused on my present. It was true. I had built a life so full and satisfying that there was no room for wondering about people who had chosen to remove themselves from it. Tom and I had traveled the world together, built a successful business, bought our dream house, created a circle of friends who were more like chosen family. We'd weathered challenges together. The death of my father, Tom's bout with depression, business setbacks, health scares, and each difficulty had brought us closer, rather than driving us apart. That's what real partnership looked like. Sometimes young people ask me for advice about relationships, and I always told them the same thing. Pay attention to what people do, not what they say, and never accept treatment that you wouldn't want your best friend to accept. If I could go back and give my younger self advice, it would be to trust my instincts earlier, to pay attention to the small inconsistencies, to remember that love shouldn't require you to ignore red flags or make excuses for someone's behavior. But I couldn't go back, and I didn't want to. The path that had led me here, through betrayal and heartbreak to genuine love and success, was the only path that could have brought me to this exact life, with this exact person. Marcus and Jenna had thought they were stealing my future. Instead, they'd freed me to find a better one. 20 years later, at Tom's 50th birthday party, surrounded by the family we'd built together. Not just biological family, but chosen family. Friends who'd become siblings. Colleagues who'd become confidants. I realized something profound. I had won. Not because Marcus and Jenna had suffered consequences for their betrayal, though they had. Not because I'd gotten some cosmic revenge, though karma had certainly played its part. I had won because I'd refused to let their betrayal define me, poison me, or limit my capacity for trust and love. I had won Because I'd built a life so much better than anything I could have had with Marcus, that their betrayal had become irrelevant. I had won, because I was exactly where I was supposed to be, with exactly the right person, living exactly the life I was meant to live. And the best part, they had lost each other, lost the respect of everyone who knew them, damaged their careers and reputations, all for a relationship that couldn't survive the weight of its own deception, while I had gained everything: real love, real partnership, real success, real happiness. That night, as Tom and I lay in bed in the house we'd bought together, in the life we'd built together, he said what he said every night: "I love you, Rachel." And I said what I said every night back: "I love you too." Simple words, but ones I knew were completely, absolutely true. Marcus and Jenna had taught me that not all "I love yous" mean the same thing. Some are lies, some are wishful thinking, some are manipulation, but some, like the ones Tom and I exchanged every day, are promises, commitments, truths that grow stronger with time instead of weaker with exposure. 25 years later, I can say with complete certainty, leaving Marcus and Jenna behind was the best decision I ever made. Not just because they betrayed me, but because walking away from them led me directly to the life I was always meant to live. Karma didn't just come for them. Karma came for me too. And mine was so much sweeter.